Hi, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Friday, and today it's folk. I mentioned to you earlier in the week we're going to be looking at a Canadian music icon that we lost in the last week, and that was Ian Tyson. And over the last couple of months, I'd received a couple of donations, and one of them included Ian and Sylvia album. Now I'm just going to grab it for a second. Ian and Sylvia, big folk duo, started in around the early 60s in Toronto. Of course, Toronto, you know what I say about Toronto. Ian was actually from out west, but had come to Toronto, started playing in the coffee houses, met Sylvia there, and they worked as a duo. In 1964, they were married and continued on as a performing duo until 1975. Now, shortly after they got together in Toronto, they went to New York City. And this is where they hooked up with Albert Grossman, who some of you may recognize the name, had been manager for Peter, Paul and Mary, another folk group, and was soon to be manager of Bob Dylan. Now this resulted in two things: a performance for them at the 1963 Newport Folk Festival, as well as a contract with Vanguard Records. Now, one of the albums I received in my donation was this one, The Best of Ian and Sylvia, and it's one of the Vanguard series. They recorded a number of albums for Vanguard early in their career. I'll also talk in a minute here about an album they did for Columbia, which was more at the latter part of their recordings. They were together until 1975. Shortly after that, they divorced and went off. Ian had a solo career. Sylvia was part of another group called the Quartet, or Quintet. Let me just find that here. Yeah, with Colleen Peterson. And they did a lot of performing as well into the latter part of the the millennium. Okay, let's take a look at this album firstly. Best of Ian and Sylvia. They don't list a lot of information on players. We've got Ian on guitar, Sylvia auto harp, both of them on vocals, arranged by Ian Tyson. On the back, again, this was back in the era when there really wasn't a lot of information out there. We've got a few originals by Ian Tyson. We Are On My Mind, So Much for Dreaming, Four Strong Winds, which again was a really, really big number for him, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We've also got some songs on here from other writers, Gordon Lightfoot contributing Early Morning Rain. We've got 24 Hours from Tulsa, and another tune here from Burt Bacharach and Hal David. We've got Changes by Phil Oakes, Darcy Farrow by Tom Campbell, Catfish Blues, traditional, La Vie, Le Bon Vent, traditional, and The Four Strong Winds. Now, first recording, I believe, of Four Strong Winds, and this was a very, very popular song for Ian Tyson. And it had been recorded by a number of different artists. I've got a few of them here. Neil Young, of course, I remember his version, probably more so than Ian Tyson's. Johnny Cash, Sarah McLachlan, Harry Belafonte, and Bob Dylan. It was also named one of the greatest Canadian songs of all time. It was certainly well received and well thought of. Again, to get that kind of accolades is really something unusual. Both Ian and Sylvia were made members of the Order of Canada. Both of them have been inducted into the Canadian Hall of Fame, Canadian Music Hall of Fame. And during the 70s, from 1970 to 75, Ian Tyson actually hosted a TV show on CTV here in Canada. And it was known as Nashville North in the first season, and then became the Ian Tyson Show. So certainly a career on television, a career in music, some great work here. Starting out as a folk duo, moving more into a country folk duo later on. It was just a piece of Canadian music history. Now the other album I had, a little later than the Vanguard one, it was called Ian and Sylvia, and I had it on cassette. No, it wasn't cassette, it was 8-track. Had it on 8-track. I don't have it here with me today, but there were just two songs on there that really stuck out as being what I considered two of the best he ever did. One was more often than not. Sorry, I had to sing that in my head to get the title for it. More often than not, a David Whiffen tune, David Whiffen, another great Canadian folk performer and writer. And we talked about him quite a few episodes ago, and if you get a chance, check out his album, Coast to Coast Fever. Great folk album. David wrote, more often than not, Jerry Jeff Walker did a Canadian or a country version of it, and Ian and Tyson did an excellent version on this album as well. And the other song on here is one that I think is one of Ian Tyson's best, Summer Wages. Now, if you haven't heard it, check it out. It was a great tune, written by Ian Tyson, performed also by David Bromberg. Now, we talked about David Bromberg quite a few episodes ago, and it showed up on his album, How Late Will You Play Till? Now, originally that was a 2-album set, but I noticed on some of the streaming networks, they've broken that down into 2 separate albums. Originally what the idea was, one disc was in the studio, the other was live versions. And it's the studio one you're looking for, Summer Wages. And as great as Ian Tyson's version was, I think David Bromberg has really done the ultimate version of this song. I mean, to me, it is the best version I've heard of it. Ian's words, Ian's music, David's delivery. It's just excellent. If you get a chance to check it out, David Bromberg, How Late Will You Play Till? Ian Tyson's Summer Wages. So that's it. Just a couple of albums from Ian and Sylvia, remembering a great music icon. Unfortunately, another one we've lost, but certainly made music history all through the 60s, 70s, and still continuing on today. So if you get a chance, check them out on the streaming networks. Lots there to pick from. Spotify, YouTube for some videos, and hard copies are still available. And if you're lucky, like my friend was, showing up in some of the yard sales, secondhand stores, great places to find some of these older albums. That's it for Friday. So we'll see you on Monday again. Everybody have a great weekend. Take care. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.